Good evening. I'm Candy Taylor. I live at 13778 Quanbeck Trail. And I want to first say thank you to you guys are volunteers. And when I saw the list of all the things that you have to read to prepare for these meetings, it's extraordinary. And I did send some other materials this morning. And so I don't know if you got them or had a chance to read them or not, but I appreciate that he did admit that a previous planning commission did recommend to not approve and last time, and we were hoping that this was not going to come back again. We live above on Quanbeck Trail on that ridge, and we all moved there. That neighborhood's been there since the early 1990s. We moved there because it was beautiful and it was quiet and it was close to nature. And having this run from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through shorter hours on Saturday is going to dramatically change our quality of life. And there are studies that shown that it will also lower our property values. 246 and that drive from Northfield, and that is the gateway to the Bigwood State Park. And having a big one of these gravel pits there is gonna be like a black eye on a beautiful pastoral surrounding. It doesn't fit with the surroundings. So we still think that there are unanswered questions. The traffic study, if you will did, only address whether or not they needed an additional driveway with the truck traffic, but it didn't address the public safety issues that we raised, and it didn't address the potential damage to infrastructure that a bunch of heavy gravel loaded trucks could do to our roads. So we are going to be different than a lot of these other proposals where there was minimal opposition to it, because there's significant opposition to this project. And so I hope that you guys will all represent us as well as the farmers and the applicants here. And so that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Kiera Jorgensen, and I live at 11513 Caro Trail near Strand, Minnesota. I'm trained in environmental ethics, and I teach at one of our regional colleges, and so I'd like to tailor some of my comments and concerns. As a neighbor, I live just about a mile up the hill from this proposed site and have some real concerns. Despite what Andrew just said, 20 years in the making, you will hear from neighbors who have lived in this area for much longer than 20 years, who have a lot of lived experience, who aren't coming from Wisconsin to talk about how often this area floods, to talk about waste that was dumped illegally in this area years before that time. And the main thing I want to note is we do not have, beyond what we just heard, which frankly is a bit hearsay to get a proposal approved, we do not have any study that was brought to us today to talk about any of these concerns with natural habitat for wildlife or with regard to watershed. It should be noted that this site that was previously mined, illegal waste was dumped in this area. No doubt that could be reintroduced even with the berm. That's how watersheds work, especially in times of flood. Previous mining did not adhere to requirements. Topsoil wasn't replaced. Debris spilled into the adjoining field. Buffer areas were not respected. We are unclear about the claim that there would be no pumping here, considering how wet this land is. We drive by this piece of property all the time. You'll hear from Gino, who farms the land adjacent to it. This is wetland, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to us. We did consult with the Rice County Soil and Water Conservation District right down the road here. And while they confirmed, because this is a man-made wetland area due to previous mining, they would strongly suggest additional studies with regard to soil erosion, and indicated after looking at all these materials that that's not been done yet. Not only will these proposed practices likely lead to soil erosion, even with that berm in place, but they will ultimately impact the boggy wetland area where the site is. And we know this is basic environmental terms, that when we mess with our wetlands, we mess around with one of the most effective carbon sinks, and we mess with the sponge, right? That filters all the nitrates from ag runoff, and that's a concern in our immediate area. I'll just briefly note that the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act, of course, does require that roads and bridges be built 660 feet back from an active or inactive nest. Any tree clearing be back 660 feet, but it's not limited to those requirements. It also includes the harassment of such birds, which also includes noise. And I can't imagine any of this happening in a peaceful environment that doesn't affect the eagle population there. I'll yield my time.
Yep.
Thank you.
3 minutes, please. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak on this?
I'm Tad Anzion, 13520 Cavan-Beck Trail. Well, I haven't been in the area very long. After retiring up in the Twin Cities, we moved down less than 2 years ago, came down for the country ambiance and nice quiet setting. Our property is the northernmost property on Cavan-Beck Trail. And a lot of the things that it was reiterated by Candy also goes for us. So our expectations were quiet and peace, and we're a half a mile from the proposed site. Noise pollution, environment pollution associated with the dust is going to make our house almost uninhabitable. 6 days a week, not sunrise to sunset, but in the neighborhood, and Saturdays shorter. Summer months, we have winter to look forward to. Down the back of our property is that stream, same stream that runs along the back of the proposed pit. And environment issues and that eagle. I ride my bike a lot in the area, and I bicycle. And I've seen that eagle. He patrols 246, keeps our roads clear for the roadkill, a lot of deer in the area. And he's a local product, and he's popular, and he adds to the ambiance. He'll pull the roadkill, and people will stop and take pictures of him. Safety issues as well. Precedent set of denial. I hope you take this all into consideration. Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, I am John Larson. Everyone calls me JR. I live at 11333 Cavan-Beck Trail. And I've lived there for 18 years now with my wife and my son who's disabled. He's on the autism spectrum. He lives at home with us. And I mention that because I work in Northfield, my wife works in Northfield, my son receives services there. So we're on this road every single day. And I'm very concerned about the safety issues. The trucks, the size of the trucks means you don't get into a little fender bender. It means you get crushed. And I fear that someday there's going to be fatalities because of this plant going in and the number of trucks that could be there. And I've already heard people talk today on other issues about precedents. Precedents, you open it up, I worry about that asphalt plant getting approved next. So I don't want to take this first step down that slippery slope. The environmental causes, I think we've talked about it a little bit, but I'm going to add to it. Dust control is not dust elimination. And that wind blows west right toward the creek and right toward our neighborhood. So there's health issues involved, and then there's sediment issues that will come about because of the dust that is created, because they cannot eliminate it. They can try to control it. So that, from an environmental standpoint, is a big thing. Personal costs, property value is a big thing. We are not a bunch of outside investors. We are your neighbors. We have our families there, our kids there, and we want to make sure that it's safe and that it's the environment that we invested our lives in. You know, we are taking everything we have and put it into these properties. So this is not something we're doing on a whim. It's not an investment property. Process and partnership. I don't think the way that they've gone about this, I think you guys, everything's above board and as it should be in terms of notifications. But the notifications are very limited, and I think that needs to change. And it's when there's something like this that actually affects so many more people. I'm very well connected with a lot of different people in different aspects because of my job. I work at Laura Baker in Northfield, so I get connected to a lot of people in the community. And I can tell you people that weren't notified about this, Bigwood State Park. The people there that manage that should know about this and should have a say in this, not just 2 weeks notice, a couple flyers going out. In addition to that, there's conservation groups in the area. There's the Clean Water Group in Northfield. They're going to want to have a say in this at some point. The population of Nearstrand, it's outside of our little 2-mile bubble. So what? All of those people work in Northfield. They all travel that. They all take their families down that road. And it's the same thing, you know, there's a lot of different pieces to it, but they should have a say in this too. And so this should not get, you know, approved quickly and started moving forward. This needs to be slowed down and taken a look at a lot more seriously and get all the real constituents involved and learn about this. Because I can tell you that the people that I talked to before this meeting, there's at least 10 more people that live within a mile and a half that aren't here tonight that want to.
Been 3 minutes. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this?
Good evening. My name's Andrew Jorgensen, and I live at 11513 Caro Trail with my wife, who you heard from earlier, and our 2 daughters. We were just recently made aware of this, so we didn't get a notification in the mail, even though we're within a mile. I'm a licensed contractor, residential builder, have been for 12 years in Minnesota. And I just want to speak briefly to the infrastructure impact of these heavy haulers. There's a lot of emotional things that could be said with respect to the environment, with respect to our families and our safety concerns. But I just want to point out the obvious that a traffic study that considers traffic flow is not the same thing as something that examines the difference between a 4,000-pound commuter car and a hauler that can reach the maximum limit allowed by federal law, which is 80,000 pounds. The impact on our roads for one heavy hauler in a given year next to one commuter car is a factor of 10,000 to 1. And that requires a little bit of research to look at what we would like to see in terms of impact to our infrastructure. That said, it's undoubtedly going to affect our taxes. None of us like how much our taxes are already going up. We're going to have to pay a lot more for the road damage that this plant, if it should be approved, will affect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak on this?
Good evening. My name's Cliff Taylor, 13778 Quanbeck. I want to talk about the financial impact that a gravel pit brings to a community. There's been lots of studies that show what happens to property values in a radius around a gravel pit. There's numbers as high as 30% if you're within the quarter mile. So what I did today is I went on Beacon Schneider and drew a 1 mile radius circle, and I counted all the homes, and I also downloaded all the property valuations of every house within 1 mile of that site. So there's 36 homes, and with a total taxable market value of $20 million. Okay, so if we estimate 15% decrease across that whole area, some are higher, some are lower, you're talking a total of $3 million in lost tax base and lost property value. That's not a small number. That's a really big number. And that's being borne by people in the local area. This is not a county-wide thing. This is a burden that's placed on us, but it also is a burden on the county because it's a reduced tax base. So it's a real thing. It averages out to about $80,000 per household for those 36 homes. Some are higher, some are lower, but that's a lot of money. So just want to make sure you're clear of that. Thank you.
Thanks.